is Newa, the platform where we speak of the power. We're back again. Sorry. Just wanted to just touch base. Wanted to get a few things out on the road. Hopefully, we'll get to some, there might be some changes here and there, but we'll see what happens. We're going to try and get through this podcast as normal and see how things progress. Welcome on board. Please, if you're joining us for the first time, go ahead and subscribe to Newa on YouTube. Help us grow the platform. We appreciate your support. Thank you so very much. You are watching Citizen Newa, the platform where we speak truth to power. I think it is, oops, one second. Oh, sorry. I think I got a bit too quick. That's where I had to go. Right, there we go. Okay. Here's where we're going. Okay. I think we got it now. Is that correct? Yeah. I believe this is where we're going now. Okay, we got it now. We're on the right track now, I think. Um, yes. Just wanted to touch base with you. Um, good morning. Welcome. Please help us grow the platform. Your watches is Network, the platform where we speak to the power. We need to share information about the Constitution of Nigeria. As you have seen, the death of Mobad has really impacted many lives. We don't know the ins and out of it. Yes, we do know that certain things were done in a way that didn't help, but still, nonetheless, we we advocate for our people to know our constitutional rights and begin to hold the governors to account. Sorry, where I've gone. I think I've gone the wrong way around. Sorry about this. Just trying to check a few things. I think I've gone around the building. I'm trying to navigate, shall we say. So just bear with me. So the reason I'm doing this broadcast is to raise awareness and to help us, you know, begin to take control of our lives collectively on ground. You are watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Go ahead and subscribe to Citizen Network and help us grow the platform. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, we really want to talk about the need for us to know the um, the Constitution and the best way for us to know our Constitution. One of the biggest problems that we face in Nigeria right now is that the Constitution of Nigeria, the 1999 Constitution, is written in English. Now, the people who need to use that Constitution, many of us are, of course, not English. We're not English. We're not in the UK. We don't speak, our mother tongue is not English. So, those who wrote that Constitution, from what it's beginning to look like, they had two purposes of writing that Constitution. Number one was to write something that will impose on the citizens. That was the first task. Number two was to ensure that the people for whom they're writing this constitution will have no control on what they wrote. That is what it's looking like to me. Because there is no other way to explain why, there is no other way to explain why the constitution for the people of Nigeria who have got diverse languages, yeah, and who speak different languages, many of them do not know or speak English. There is no reason why somebody would now write a constitution in English, impose it upon the citizens via the military. Recall, the military wrote this constitution, the 1999 constitution. They wrote it, they imposed it on us after a coup. Please follow what I'm saying. They imposed the 1999 constitution on us after they took over power. Keep in mind, I'm just trying to tell us a story here. We know the story, but keep in mind, we need to know the genesis of how we came about the 1999 Constitution and its impact on our life today. So, in when the elections took place, June 12, 1993. You'll all recall that that election was won by Abiola. Now, for the military and for those who were in power at the time, they didn't like the fact that Abiola won. So they engineered it to such an extent that they kept um, taking control of the nation via the coup. They wouldn't let the voice of the people be heard, i.e., that mandate was the only true and fair elections that ever took place. But the military said, oh, there were irregularities. They were not speaking for the people. They were speaking for themselves, not for the people. Anyway, we know the story from there on. Abiola was killed. The mandate that he won was denied. Subsequently, in that period, Abdusalam Abubakar imposed the 1999 constitution on us, part of what the military has been trying to do all along. Now they wrote that constitution. In fact, it wasn't written by them. It was a it was one that they copy and pasted and took away from they took it from uh, other countries. For all we know, it may have been something that was put before them by the colonials. Um, and they just copy and pasted and wrote and said that's the constitution of Nigeria. While Yadudu was the guy put forward as the man who wrote the constitution, but we all know there's a lot more to it than that. The reason I'm saying all of this is so that we all understand perfectly that what is happening here is a continued exploitation of the people. Please share this broadcast. You're watching this now the platform where we speak to the power. And I want us to understand the genesis of why we are where we are in terms of the lack of development in our nation today. Now, like I said, they imposed that constitution on us. As you all know, um, as we speak right now, Nigeria is a mixture of various group of people, some Igbos, some Yorubas, some Middle Belters, some Houses, and so on and so forth. And There are over, there are over, I repeat, over 350 languages spoken by citizens. 350 languages. Now, what they were saying to us is saying, oh, we are going to write it in English for us all to understand. It served the purpose for them. By putting that constitution in English, it meant that they, hello, hello, okay, I'm trying to go. Didn't like that. Ah! Did you all see that? Did you see? Yeah. So I didn't want to go fast because it may just reach out to me, you know. Yeah. So, well, that was an experience. So like a swan kind of thing. Wanted to, we just hissed at me because I was going close to it. I think it's probably my mobility scooter they didn't like. But anyway, thank you for joining. Please subscribe to Citizen NY. I hit the notification button and of course give us thumbs up. Help us reach more people. So the story that I was saying before is very much to try and show us that the Constitution of Nigeria was written in English. Our Yadudu was the man put forward for it. 1 second, please. 1 second. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'm here. I'm just So our Yadudu was a guy who they said wrote put it forward, and but we all know that it was a clandestine by the military, and it was written in English. Now, why was it written in English? That's the question you need to understand. Why was it? We need to ask that question. Why was it written in English? Why was that imposed? Thank you. All right. Why? In a nation where a majority of the people don't speak English, why was the 1999 Constitution written in English? Why? That's the question we are asking. Well, here is my theory, and it's only a theory. It was written in English because they needed to ensure that the people who they were going to impose this constitution on would not be able to challenge what they wrote. They needed it to be in a language, firstly, that the people who they were going to impose this on, which is the citizens of Nigeria, would not be able to challenge whatever they said because it was written in English. Highness. Morning, Highness. So because it was written in English. And that meant that they could do whatever they wanted. Remember, this was a document that was imposed on us by the military. The military, by nature, they control, they dictate, they operate on diktats. So to ensure that that continued when this new constitution was put in place to remain unchallenged, they kept it in English. Now, what that has meant since then is that nobody could challenge it. The citizens cannot challenge the constitution because they don't know what they're challenging. They don't know what is in the constitution because many of the majority of Nigerians don't speak English. Yes, we can speak pidgin English, but the words within the constitution are written in such a manner that it is difficult for locals to understand. And it is difficult for the locals to understand to be able to participate in the process of governance and hold their governance to account. That is the main problem. And that is what has been happening till date. Let me say this. The Bible that many people read and the Quran has been translated into our local languages. So you have the Bible in um, you have the Bible in Yoruba, you have the Bible in Igbo, you have the Bible in Hausa, and so on and so forth. So local people can actually read the Bible and understand it to a certain extent as far as is possible because it's in their language. But when it comes to the constitution that is being used to govern them, the incredible thing is those who imposed this constitution did not see it fit to have the constitution be translated into our local languages from the get-go. What that has meant as a result is that many people, many people who has for generations, for 24 years now, who have had to live through this constitution, are being governed by a constitution that they have no idea what it says because it's not in the language they understand. And that is where the oppression has begun and till date has continued. The oppression of the people of Nigeria using a constitution written in a foreign language, the language of the colonials, designed to ensure the locals did not have any say in those constitutions, nor exercise any powers of control over it. Shows there is an intent to restrict and to prevent the people from participating in their governance. Now, it is one thing for some, like myself and a few, to read the Constitution and know it in English and to be able to interpret it and use it in our arguments and discussions. It is one thing. But it is quite another for the people in the villages and the towns and the suburbs and neighborhoods to be able to firstly read that constitution, understand it, and now participate in their governance. And that has been the real problem. So, for that reason, we on the platform of Citizen AY, the platform where we speak to power, please subscribe to Citizen AY and Give us hit the notification button, give us thumbs up, help us reach more people. It is for the reason, knowing fully well that out of a nation of 210 million people, out of a nation of 210 million people, not to have the constitution in our local language is denying the people the right to participate in their governance. Let me say that again. For the constitution not to be in our local languages, that is to say, to be in Yoruba, to be in Igbo, to be in Hausa, to be in fact, all the 350 local languages, for the constitution not to be in those languages, it automatically restricts the participation of the people in their governance. Because if the constitution was in their local languages, they will know the powers they possess, such as the fact that we are sovereigns, and the powers that the government uses in govern us, they derive it from we the people through this constitution in our local languages. That knowledge is very essential for the people to begin to hold their governance to account on a daily basis. And that is what we are advocating for strongly. We are calling for the people. Now, thank you. So we are advocating for and calling for the immediate translation, advocating for and calling for the immediate translation of the 1999 Constitution into 350 local languages. Now, this is something that we must do on ground. And I actually think that this is a good opportunity to create something for the local economy. The printing and translating of this constitution in our local languages will create jobs locally and encourage people to understand their constitution perhaps for the first time. And it removes the need for anybody to have to know a foreign language before they know the constitution and be able to participate in their governance on a daily basis. So it is really important that as we speak, that this is something that takes place as a matter of course, in fact, urgently. It must be something that must be done as a matter of course right now. Um, Again, I will state, people may not know this, but there are sections of the Constitution that I have managed to translate into Yoruba, into Igbo, into Hausa, so that and Pidgin, so that people would at least have an idea of the kind of power they possess within the Constitution and how they can use it. So, so this is what we are talking about, and I'm hoping that we can enlighten our people with this knowledge. It is of immense importance. It is of immense importance that this drive be done. Um, for any politician to have ignored this particular uh, fact and not dealt with it shows the intentions of those who are in government. Their policy is simple. The less the people know, the less they are able to participate in their governance. That is to say, they are going to be given instructions. Example, they are having difficult issues, the government is not providing things. The government says, let us pray. Because the people don't know that they have the power to hold the governor to account within the constitution, because it's not written in the language, the people will go and pray. That is why we are saying, and I'm advocating for this, and I'm going to do a readout of this again live on a live broadcast, and I want you to share it. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. Please, by advocating for the printout and translation of the constitution into our local languages does not mean that Citizen AY has given up on the dream um, of Yoruba Nation. No, it doesn't mean that at all. The two positions are not mutually exclusive. They are not. In fact, in fact, they stand side by side. Because to be able to achieve Yoruba nation, we need the people to understand the flaws within the 1999 constitution themselves, to experience it and understand it, and then they themselves will advocate for a referendum clause to be inserted in the constitution of Nigeria. And that is a really important point to make. Welcome back again. Thanks for joining us. So we need our people to understand the constitution. We don't need our people to be going to any institution to study a foreign language in our land. The more we study the foreign language and use that to now understand the laws of our land, we are effectively being made um, slaves in our own land to foreign culture, foreign language that is imposed on us. Many of you will recall that to speak Yoruba on our land. They called it vernacular. And that meant that the psychological effect of that was to make you turn your back on your language. Now, when you now are using the foreign language to understand to write the laws for your own nation, you are, you are in effect, you are in effect creating a situation, an environment where the people will feel alien to speak their own language, so, in their own land. That is unacceptable. So, purely from a cultural point of view alone, it is essential that the 1999 Constitution, as amended, imposed by the military, must be with immediate effect translated to all our languages. And as stated before, that process would actually aid creating some kind of a job for our people. We need a lot of people, we need some people to be translating, and we need to begin to ensure that the constitution translated in our language, it will open the doors for the locals to be able to actually go forward and actually um, put themselves forward for positions within our governance. Currently, to be able to participate in the Nigerian state, you need to speak English because they say under the guise of, oh, you know what? Um, if you don't speak English, you won't know the laws of the land. You won't know. Well, that's the problem. That will remove that. If you know the laws of the land from in your local language, English should not be our first language. You can study any language you want, but what must happen is that our culture, our language must come first. And that is why it is so important for us to translate this constitution, the 1999 constitution as amended by the military, into our local languages. It enables the people to quickly understand the constitution, the powers they possess, how to use it, and how to hold those in government to account using those powers. It's really important that we begin that process of showing this to our people, encouraging them that look, you can and indeed you must participate in your governance because those who are in governance, they are working on your behalf. For example, under section 14.2a within the 1999 constitution as amended, it states clearly sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria from whom the government through this constitution participates constitution derives its powers and authority. Let me say that again one more time. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. Now, and someone is a person, a citizen in any part of Nigeria, doesn't majority of them don't speak English. What I've just said now about sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through its constitution, derives all its powers and authority, means nothing to them. They don't understand that concept. But now, let me give you an example of why this is so important. Now imagine, now that I've translated this particular section into Yoruba, and it reads like this: Ìjọba jẹ́ ti àwọn ènìyàn Nàìjíríà láti ọ̀dọ̀ ẹni tíjọba nípasẹ̀ òfin orílẹ̀-èdè ń gba gbogbo agbára àti àṣẹ rẹ̀. Now, what that means is that now we've now thrown the level of understanding about that section of the Nigeria 1999 Constitution. We've thrown the knowledge open to a wide section of people that will now know, okay, so the government is working for me. I can hold them to account. We can participate in our governance because the powers, the sovereignty and the power belong to we the people, and we can hold them to account. That is why it is so important for us to translate that constitution into our local languages. And I want to go one step further. We need to go and begin to advocate, encourage our local people to go to all their local government areas and demand for the constitution to be translated into our local languages. The single most restrictive problem that our people are facing is the lack of knowledge of the constitution in their language to be able to participate in their governance. And those who are running for government are relying on that lack of knowledge to exploit the citizens and keep them impoverished. We need to change the dynamics. That is what I'm talking about. So, one second. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, to that end, you will understand why I'm advocating strongly, in the strongest possible terms, that we begin a process right now of encouraging the people. Thank you very much. Encouraging our people to demand in their local government areas for the laws, the constitution of the nation, to be translated into a language that they understand. That way, they can participate in their own governance. You cannot participate in your governance if you don't know the laws of that governance in your language. We shouldn't be surprised that people have been looking for over 24 years and not actively participated in their governance from one local government area to the next. Because the fact that the Constitution has been written in English, as though the people in Nigeria are English speaking people who will understand the Constitution. And of course, we know they are not English. In all corners of Nigeria, again, I respect, there are 350 different languages. The military, clearly incapable of running anything, did not factor this into their deliberations when they suddenly imposed the 1999 Constitution. Now, we are where we are now. We need to really take this task on collectively. Without our people understanding that constitution in their languages, they will not be able to hold those in governance to account. Example, Section 14.2.6 states the participation by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. Oh, thank you very much. I can read that comment. I'll read it later on because I'm on the live broadcast, so I can't see that. Went very fast. But let me see if I can catch it again. I don't know if I can. I saw something there. I don't know if I can. I can't. But I really appreciate you. But the reason I'm stating this now and restating this and making this very clear is because far too often, many of us are saying, oh, those in government should do the right thing. But they will not do the right thing because the military, many of them, when they went into civilian clothes, put themselves in positions whereby they would exploit the people. Don't forget, the military, the sole aim of the military was to exploit the people, prevent them from actually being able to hold them to account by dint of the fact that they are military men and whatever they say goes. Now that they wrote that constitution, they kept it in English to ensure that continued. So when they now took off their clothes as army men, military men, and they now became civilians, they continued in the same vein, knowing fully well that the citizens don't understand the constitution. They continued to oppress and exploit the citizens until as we speak. That is really important to understand. And that is why when I talk about this now, we have to. Thank you so very much. Cheers. Thank you. We continue to advocate that we must collectively ensure that our people know the constitution in our language by ensuring that they actually go and demand for it from each of their local government areas. If you do not know your laws and your rights and the constitutional power that you possess, such as being a sovereign, you cannot take part in governance. You cannot hold your government to account. That is what must change fundamentally in the structure of that nation for as long as it's going to exist, if at all it's going to exist. And I have my severe doubts about the viability of Nigeria. I have my severe doubts about the viability of the nation we call Nigeria. Right? So, what I am trying to ensure and advocate as I speak to you now is to encourage our people on ground. Those of us in diaspora, we see how governance works. We see how it functions. One thing that the government collectively, in all of the in all the years of all the years of experience of us being abroad, the government in the UK, for example, if they write any laws, they make sure those laws are in English and in Welsh. And that means that the people, because they speak Welsh in Wales, the Northern Irish also have their own dialect and language. They translate it into local languages so that the people can understand those laws and be able to hold those in government to account. For 24 years, the laws of Nigeria has only been known by less than 10 million people out of 230 million Nigerians, from according to estimates. Out of 230 million Nigerians, maybe about less than 10 million people understand or know about the constitution. Majority don't even know that we have a constitution because it is not in their language. They can't read it, they can't comprehend it, they cannot participate as a result of that lack of knowledge. That is what we must change. Those in government will do everything they can for that not to happen because it is not in their interest for the people to know about the power they possess within the constitution. For example, again, I'll read that to you again. In Yoruba, the section I'm reading to you now, thank you very much for the thumbs up. Please subscribe, hit notification button, give a thumbs up, and help us share this message. The message that we want to pass along now is that everybody in all communities must have the access to the constitution in their local languages. Without that central information, our people will remain and continue to remain at the mercy of the politicians who go into government, knowing fully well that the people are not aware of their constitutional rights. We must change that dynamic. It is obvious that whatever government, if you look at the last government, APC government, they relied on that lack of knowledge and they exploited it. The current APC government are looking to do the same. And many of the people who are in the government under the last dispensation, many of them are still in government. They want to do everything they can to maintain the status quo. The status quo being, the status quo being that they can, they can decide, right, you know what, you don't need to have that information. Because if you have that information, you will be able to hold us to account. We don't want you to hold us to account. So they are doing everything they can. They're not listening to what we're saying now. The message that I'm saying, telling you now about the need for the constitution to be in our language, they don't want that message to carry through. That's where you come in. We need that message to spread across every community. Like I said, in the UK, they've got the Welsh, the Scottish, the English. When they make laws, they translate it into Welsh, into English. The Irish, Northern Irish, also have their language. So it is translated in their languages. So even though they are part of the UK government is English, the laws are in their local languages so they can understand it and participate in their governance. Now, let's look at a sharp contrast with the Nigerian situation. The Nigerian situation, the government is actively ensuring the people never understand those laws in their language. They don't want them to understand it in their language because they know the minute the people understand and participate in their governance and hold them to account in their language, they cannot exploit the citizens. So, those of us abroad, there is only so much we can do. And I'm here to tell you, without this key process of ensuring and actively encouraging the people to demand for the constitution in their local language, we cannot achieve Yoruba nation. We cannot achieve Biafra. We cannot achieve Middle Belt. Even the houses, nobody's going anywhere. Because until you understand that those laws in your language and the powers you can use to change, make the change, nothing will change, I'm afraid. So the task that we face is simple collectively. This is the task we face collectively. The task is this: begin in every community to encourage our people to say, first things first, before we do anything else. Since we have the Bible, the Quran in our local languages, we must have our constitutional laws in our local language. And we demand for that to be made available to us as soon as possible, ASAP. We need to set up in each of the local government areas. I am prepared to set up a team in each of the local government areas to begin to advocate, to speak to the government in those areas, from local to state to federal, about the need for this the constitution to be in our languages, because that is the single most important document that the people have no idea of, that is impacting their lives, oftentimes negatively. Negative. So, oops. So, I'm advocating for this, and those of you watching us now, please share this broadcast, let it reach more people. We really thank you. We really need your support in growing this knowledge. Every one of us abroad, it is our role, it's our duty to do this, because if we don't do it, our people will remain dependent on us. We will have to be sending money home every month. And one of the reasons why I am advocating for this specifically is because there is something called the monthly Federal Account Allocation Committee. There is a monthly allocation that our people at home in many villages and towns and cities are unaware of, simply because the language in which they use to publicize the awareness is in English. The people do not know about the monthly allocations in their local languages. That must change. If the people are aware in their local language of the monthly allocation and the amount to whom it is paid, and that they have the power as stated under Section 42C, which I am going to read to you in Yoruba, because I want us to get used to our people knowing their laws in their language. There is, which is this, Section 42A in Yoruba. Ìjọba jẹ́ ti àwọn ènìyàn Nàìjíríà láti ọ̀dọ̀ ẹni tí ìjọba nípasẹ̀ òfin orílẹ̀-èdè yìí gba gbogbo agbára àti àṣẹ rẹ̀. That means that the people will now know that they have the power within the Constitution to demand questions from those in power, because they now know that àṣẹ àti agbára, that they possess it within their community to take out such an action without fear, because the Constitution gives them that power. Furthermore, Section 42C states, which I'm going to read in Yoruba again, ìkópa àwọn ènìyàn nínú ìjọba wọn gbọ́dọ̀ rí dájú ní ìbámu pẹ̀lú àwọn òfin orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Again, that is in English. In short, in English, it says the participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Now, I'm telling you categorically, I am telling you categorically, that there is not, you will not find more than, there's not up to 10 million people out of the 200 million Nigerians that knows that all will understand what I just read in English. Because the English is not their first language. And once you do not know the laws, you can't participate in that process. So before we tell the people that we want to go for Yoruba Nation, we want to go for, excuse me, you want to go for Middle Belt, you want to go for Hausa, Biafra. Think about it. Before we do that, the task before us now is to support and encourage the people in all local communities right now to demand for those constitutions to be translated in their language, so they know what they are being governed by. Many people are not even aware that there are constitutional laws that governs their life. They just know that there are people in government and they tell them what to do and they are following, not knowing that they have the power to question everybody in government. That is what is written and enshrined in the Constitution. The Constitution even guarantees their sovereignty. The participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. One of the key provisions of this Constitution is that you watching me, you are a sovereign and you have the power to hold your government to account. But because 200 million people don't know that they have that power, they don't use it. We need to encourage that. That is a task before all of us. You see, all the problems that we are facing, lack of roads, lack of water, lack of schools, lack of healthcare, lack of hospitals, lack of all of these things, because we don't know the powers we possess and how to use it to hold our government to account, we are being exploited by those in government. That is the simple reality. I would like us all to really take note of this particular thing. Please share this broadcast if it resonates with you. You are, of course, watching. Thank you. Citizen Ewa, the platform where we speak to power. I'm going to come back again live and talk about this in a way to make us understand. We need, in simple terms, to encourage our people to demand for their constitution to be translated into the language they will understand. And it would remove, the minute we start doing that, The people will use, they will read. It's not about, you see, understanding English is not a sign of intelligence. And that is what many people seem to misunderstand. People are setting up, oh, if you go to school, that's where you will know your laws. No, the amount of people in schools and what they're learning is actually holding us back in our development in our nation. Because by having to learn a foreign language before you know your laws, you are slowing the developmental growth of the people. Professor Sophie Oluwole, may her soul rest in peace, said this. You speaking English in your as your own language in your own land and ignoring your language. A child of what's the word? Oh, my battery is going out now. A child of I'm going to fix that in a minute. A child up until the age of 4, 5, 6. Professor Sophie Oluwole said that the child will understand what the mom says. A child will actually be able to man to stay in the shop. A 3-year-old can stay in a shop in the local village, in local town, a community, and the mom will say, I'm going to the toilet. Can you man the stores? And the child will be able to sell goods and trade because she's been watching her mom and she has the knowledge of counting of money and all of that. These are things that happens automatically. But as soon as that same child goes to a school or um, to or uh, to school to start learning English, the learning of the English slows down her developmental rate. It slows down. I'm going to show you the video. When I'm going to do when I come back when I get back in a few minutes, I'll rest for a bit, and I'll come and show you the video. In the video, she states categorically that the young lady, the young girl, when from the age of up to 4, she was able to trade. She knows the amount of money. She was developing fast. But as soon as they sent her to um, school to learn English and all of that stuff, it slowed up. So let me see if I can do this. So I'm just gonna it's one down. I'm gonna try and as soon as she was sent to school, her progression reduced. So her comprehension of cognitive approach to studying and to being able to receive and use information quickly, it reduced. So what that tells us is that again, English is not a sign of intelligence. No, it's just you understanding what you've been taught in the language. It doesn't develop your knowledge base. It doesn't. It only develops your knowledge of that particular language. That's it. And that is what we need to really understand. For us to grow in our own nation, we need our languages to be something that is used in our daily transaction. We need those languages to be used in our daily transactions as a matter of course, because our mother tongue is often the fastest way for us to grow, to develop. It allows us to really go forward fast. When you are having to think, right, when you are having to think in a foreign language and then translate back to your language, it slows you down. This is having an impact on our economy because that process takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of wasting of the energy that we can use to propel us forward collectively. Again, I advocate for not only the constitution to be translated into our languages, but to begin to make sure that official discussions are held in our languages first and foremost. I'm even advocating for the need for the keyboards that we use to have to be in our language. The the Chinese, they did not develop until they had everything in their own language. Language is so important. Language is so important. So I'm going to talk about this again, and I'm going to discuss it at length. And we can track, you can actually track the development of the Chinese up until the time that they were sort of using English language in their schools and everything else and all of that. They were backwards. Up on into the 70s, they were backwards. They were even less doing less than we were doing. But the minute that they started, they devised the Chinese keyboard. It meant that the people were able to study in their language and they were able to grow at a faster rate. So, what I'm talking about in terms of this language, the constitution in a language, is of immense importance because it would actually propel forward the growth of the nation. Currently, we are using foreign language to run our governance. It is slowing us down. It restricts the number of people that can actually participate, who can stand up and actually speak and actually get things going. It is really important we understand that. Oh, sorry, this thing is playing up now. I'll try again. So I'm gonna try. So anyway, I'm not too far away, but I'm gonna. So what I want to say here, I hope this makes sense to you all. I hope this is making sense to you all. The need for our constitution to be in our local languages cannot be overemphasized. It cannot be overemphasized. So um, what I'm saying here, and please share this broadcast. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment. Give us thumbs up. I saw one or two comments earlier on. I couldn't answer it. I'm going to try and see if I can read it. And if I don't answer it now, it's because I'm obviously on the move. So it's difficult to um to get that up. But we will try in any case. We will try to answer it, and I will answer it afterwards. But please share this broadcast. What do you think? How do you see what I'm saying here? Like I said, the Chinese didn't develop until they started using their own local languages to carry out their business. And Professor Sophie Oluwole has confirmed this in what I said. In her extensive research, the late Professor Sophie Oluwole, in her extensive research, she confirmed that a child of 2, 3 year old would trade, would do will what's the word? Will actually barter and sell goods on behalf of her mom whilst her mom was inside doing something else, manning the shop. But that same child put them in the environment where they're having to learn English. Their progression regresses back by a number of years. So when I'm talking about the need for us to have the constitution in our local languages, it is fundamental to the development of our nation, whatever that's going to be, either be Yoruba, be as Yoruba nation or as regions. Without this key element, there will not be development because that development would doesn't need the people will be able to hold their government to account without having to speak English language. You don't need English to know your rights and to be able to use those rights to hold your government to account. That is the point that I'm making here. I hope this makes sense. Please share this broadcast. I need to stop again. So I'm trying to inch this thing till I can get to a place where I can charge it. I don't want to use a second battery because there's no need. So please share this broadcast. It is of immense importance. If the Bible and the Quran is in your language, this translated to your language, you equally need the Constitution in your local languages for our people to begin to participate. And the thing is, once you do that, it removes this mentality that English is a sign of intelligence, and that is the problem that we're facing. Oh, when you're speaking good grammar, oh, you know it all. No, you don't know it all. It's just words. What you need to know is intelligence, which we have by the bucket load, oftentimes by locals who don't speak a word of English. Those talents, we are them die with them without using it to its full potential. So please, as you are watching this broadcast, I'm going to come back later on. We need to really make sure that we encourage our people to participate in the governance. to hold those we elected to office to account, to actually begin to read, demand for, to demand for the constitution in our local languages. The perfect case is what I told you about Professor Sophie Oluwole and her research. I will come and play that video and I will show you what she said there. I happened to be a Facebook friend of hers on Facebook, and we spoke one or two times until she passed away. And I was always in awe of the lady. May her soul rest in peace. But she is so right. Using foreign language and indeed encouraging our youth to learn foreign language before they know their rights is detrimental to the development of our nation. It is detrimental to the development of our nation. And I will keep repeating that. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching since Newa, the platform where we speak truth to power. What I will do is I'm going to come back later on and give you further updates, maybe in the next few 5 to 10 minutes. But you will hear something from me. But for now, what's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. You've been watching Season Newa, the platform where we speak to the power. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, give us thumbs up, help us reach more people. Share this broadcast, leave comments. Once again, I thank you for joining me. Hope you found this beneficial. Please, let's get together and encourage our local communities to begin to demand for the constitution in their local languages. Of course, we're going to try and print it out as well. And one of our tasks is to actually print it out and begin to hand it out in our local languages so the people can know their rights. But like I told you, the benefit of that is that it actually propels the development and the growth of our nation forward. Anyway, what are your thoughts? You've been watching Season Network, the platform where we speak truth to power about this one. Thank you and bye for now.